This was clearly not the plan. To be embarrassed, and I ain't living up to the standard that's apparent. No room for excuses, only improvements. But sit with me a moment before you jump to your conclusions on how we got here. We can start from the top, we can start with the sacks, we can start with the drops, we can start with the shots to a target that's draped. Regardless, let me talk about what's really at stake, and that's legacy. Trying to fill the role of the one that stood ahead of me. Whole city want the one took after me instead of me, and rightfully so, my homie like that. And let them tell it about me, I'ma be right back. Exchange my struggles for a rifle, that's a light pack. And I just smile and show humility despite that. Yeah. They think I'm soft, think I'm weak. My confidence is rooted in belief. They call me the one, I live for the hype. Now they tryna tell me that the choice isn't right. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? I gotta be myself, don't care what they say, cause I'm the only person that can stand in the way. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? Once there was a man on a journey, made some fatal mistakes in a hurry, sent away from all of his worries, like succeeding what many saw was Billy Graham in a jersey, to the abyss, until he reappeared proven worthy. That was me, so I know where you been. What kind of sort of the difference is that you think it, but I knew I was him. Knew I would smack the competition that blend. Knew I would change the Carolinas and the league before the laces would spin. And it wasn't easy. They brought me back after releases if they didn't need me. And then they got you, and respectfully, the whole thing just feel like a waste. A press release about a trade they tried to play in my face. 7 years in the desert with no chance of escape. And a fan base that sees it as an utter disgrace. Just be patient with them, they don't deserve it. But it's on you, you gotta earn it. They call me the one, I live for the hype. Now they tryna tell me that the choice isn't right. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? I gotta be myself, don't care what they say, cause I'm the only person that can stand in the way. Tell me, did I lose it? Well, did I lose it? What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of One Carolina Live. I am joined by a very, very special guest, man. One of the smartest people that I have seen in any football space. Jared Feinberg, man, the draft guru, as I will call him affectionately tonight. How are you, my brother?
I'm good, man. I'm actually getting started on my Buka film evaluation. So over the last couple of years, I've been a fan of his game, what he brings to the table. So I'm looking forward to sharing my final analysis of Buka, likely on Panthers Wire for a draft profile.
Nice. Now, how long have you been writing for Panthers Wire?
I started in, August or early August of last year. And before that, I was with Cat Crave over at Fansided with Dean Jones.
Yeah.
From probably early 2022 to this summer. Then I got an opportunity to write for Panthers Wire and USA Today, so took advantage of it, and I love where I'm at right now, and happy to be awesome with Anthony Ruiz and doing content for him, helping him out over at Panthers Wire. It's been a blessing for sure.
That's awesome, man. Well, you've got some really good insight. You know, I had a mock that I was gonna do, and then I was like, you know what? I've got to reach out to somebody who really does this, who like deep dives this stuff, who really gets into the, meat and potatoes, kind of the backdoor analytics of, a lot of these things. And, so I can understand. I mean, obviously, like when we look at like rounds 1 through 3, I think a lot of us kind of have sort of the same, cast of characters or whatever. But really those other rounds where it really gets, interesting as far as like building out your team and the depth on your roster and things like that. And I know you would be someone that I would definitely want to pick your brain on. So, man, we're going to get right into it. So I want to start with this, man. I'm going to ask you a question. Like, What's your overall thoughts of the Panthers, how they ended, maybe even how they started? Obviously, the story was Bryce Young and his, struggles early on. But like, where do you see this team now from like week 1 to the time that week 17 ended? And or I guess it's say 18, 17, 18, sorry, 17, sorry. Week 17 when the season ended. Like, do you see progression that could, be an immediate turnaround for this team next year? Or do you still think that there's quite a ways to go as far as like becoming even a potential division winning team?
I think, depending on how you viewed the team, you can look at it both of those ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cautiously optimistic that Carolina can turn this thing around pretty quickly
Mm-hmm.
after this offseason. And it will depend on how they do this offseason, especially with addressing the defense, addressing the lack of high level playmakers offensively. It won't be an easy turnaround, but with I was just reading an article from Joe Person with an interview of Greg Olson.
Mm-hmm.
Greg was talking about how this team is kind of ready for a quick turnaround. Not I don't know if it's going to be similar to the Commanders this year, being on on the cusp of a Super Bowl appearance,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say this team is closer to the level of where the Texans could be or were when they made that surprise run.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not in the same exact situation
Mm-hmm.
as the Texans, but this is a team that has its franchise quarterback that over the last half of the season or on the back half of the season, Bryce Young looked like the franchise quarterback, and he was arguably a
Mm-hmm.
top 10 quarterback in the final probably 7 or 8 games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that progression from Bryce Young. You have to be encouraged about the direction of this franchise. And Dan Morgan saying he's going to be aggressive in free agency. That to me excites me. But also you need to see it happen. You need to
Yeah.
see Dan
Yeah.
be aggressive as a GM. And if he isn't, it's not going to bode well for Dan nor Dave Canales.
Right.
And one thing about Dave Canales is that I've seen people outside the Panthers fan base going like, this guy reminds me a lot of Dan Campbell, not
Mm-hmm.
to the like intensity that Dan
Yeah.
Campbell is,
Right.
but Dave Canales is his own coach,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got something here. He's got something here in Carolina that excites me. I think it should excite you. It should excite every Panthers fan. I
It
know there
does.
are some skeptics. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't any skeptics about how this could turn out. But with how Bryce Young played at the end of the season, a 5 touchdown performance in Atlanta, and just playing absolute killer ball, it's hard not to be excited and hopeful for the
Yeah.
future of this franchise.
I agree. That's all good stuff, man. So I want to ask a question because many people, and you would be more qualified, in my opinion, to answer this question than even myself or many others. Where do you fall on like you talked about Bryce's 5 touchdown performance? The defense, obviously gave up the most points in the history of the league, but they still. I feel like for what those guys could do, like I did an interview with Captain Munnerlin recently, and I talked to him about like, you know, with Vero Vero, is it more these guys just aren't good enough, or do you think it's more the scheme? And he's like, man, they just don't have the guys, man. That's no disrespect to anybody on the roster, John, but like they just don't have the dudes. And so I know a lot of people were like, man, well, in that case, we should have not really been gun ho about winning that game, which you can't tell a player that, right? But where do you fall as just a draft analyst and a fan yourself of like draft position based on what happened at the end of the year? Because personally, I like the momentum going into the next season. But what say you on that?
I'm with you about needing that momentum to go into the next year. And we kind of saw that with the Detroit Lions a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They ended the year on a hot streak. They
Yeah.
were on the back half of the season. They first half they were the worst team in football. Second half, one of the better teams in football.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see what they have done since then. They are one of the best organizations in the sport, which 10 years ago would have have had both of us laughing
Yeah.
in anyone's face.
Right.
So the fact that, you know, seeing that and then seeing what Carolina did on the back half, and sure, a lot of those games didn't culminate into wins,
Hmm.
and that's unfortunate. But I think the losses showed a team that was competitive week in and week out
Yeah.
outside of the Dallas game, which was just a complete shit show from the start.
Hmm.
And you know that's something that fans are going to probably look at and be like, if we don't see progression, we're going to see what happened against Dallas more often than not.
Yeah.
But I think Carolina will progress for sure going into the offseason and also having that momentum heading into the year. And of course, it's going to depend on who's going to be the week one opponent,
Hmm.
who the Panthers are going to be playing early in the season. We already know who their opponents are. There could be an international trip potentially as the away team. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
So you just don't know at this point. But on the subject of Vajero Evro, in a perfect world, and I've said this numerous times, and I think in a perfect world, Evro is gone, and Carolina's looking for a new defensive coordinator.
Mm.
But
Mm.
I'm on the page, and I understand why Carolina decided to keep Jero Evro
Hmm.
because they want to keep continuity. They want to make sure like everyone is together, everyone is on the same page of what needs to be done to fix this team next year.
Hmm.
And I don't expect Carolina or especially Dan Morgan to go with players that quote unquote fit Evro's defense. I think you're
Hmm.
going to see guys that are a little bit outside the box, but are good football players that I think this defense is going to end up figuring out, or at least Evro will figure out how to utilize these players.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly looking for guys that are the prototypical size or the archetype for this certain position in Evro's type of scheme or defense. I think you just need good football players, quality football players. You
Hmm.
need to raise the floor of that entire defense. And I probably would say the entire roster because that team has lacked depth for the last couple years. And that's why the Panthers are in the situation they are now. So I would look for Carolina to be aggressive defensively, looking to add quality talent on all three levels of the defense.
Hmm.
But I'll say this about Evro's scheme: it has to be what it was when he was coaching in Denver. You saw a lot more variety in his coverages. You saw a lot more quarters. You saw a lot more man, and I think we saw more man in Denver's defense because
Hmm.
Sir Pat Surtain actually had a really solid man cover corner opposite of him
Hmm.
and Ronald Darby that season.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
you look over to now, and J.C. Horn hasn't been able to travel much. I think if Carolina were to go after a cornerback that is more of a specific man defender
Hmm.
who can play man coverage well, can play press well, that will allow Horn to travel with number one guys. If you get yourself some more quality safeties, I think that whole room is going to get revamped. You get yourself a revamped safety room with good football players there. I think that secondary is going to be a lot more aggressive, and I would say probably a lot more disciplined than they were this past season.
Hmm.
And to me, there was a significant talent issue. You had guys that probably shouldn't have been on the football field in week 18.
Yeah.
Like these are guys that should be on practice squads and should
Yeah.
stay as practice squad
Yeah. Oh yeah.
players.
Yeah.
So, it's a hard situation for Evro to be in. I understand why fans would want him out. I mean, you give up the most points in NFL history in a single season. That in most cases you're
Yeah.
gone.
You're gone. Yeah.
But Canales, I think he has said he trusts in the 3-4.
Hmm.
He trusts in Evro, but he also mentioned on that Monday presser after week 18 that they're going to look into maybe some scheme adjustments and work with Evro on that. We'll
Hmm.
see if it actually does happen this season, but I think it will depend on how they do in the draft and in free agency.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I've been torn on this. Like, and this is one of those, like, I think that you can leave room when you're a fan and a content creator to kind of have variable thought. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to just you land on one specific, page and say like, okay, well, I got to stick to this because that was my original thought, going into this. Like if you were a Bryce, supporter and, you got turned off by the first 2 weeks, like, you don't necessarily have to go to like, okay, there's nothing he can do to earn my trust back. Or if you were somebody that didn't like him at all, you can't see any light, in the tunnel for his, potential greatness or whatever. So with the Avero situation, like I've been public about like, hey man, when Robert Saleh was still available, like, you've got to make that call, right? But I also have been on the side of like, hey man, we have gone, my goodness, the last 3 or 4 years with so much influx, like it would be good just to have the same coaching staff going into the next season, like at least at the top of the positions. Like I know they got rid of a lot of position coaches, but like having Avero, having Brad Isaac, having Canales, and the majority of that coaching staff still intact has to mean for something, especially when you saw how it started to come together, towards the end of the season, and then how the season ended on a high note the way it did. And so, like you talked about, guys on the roster. I know one thing I wanted to highlight here is my moderator, Jermaine, had stepped in and he said, I really wish we had an extra pick before that 57th pick. And as I told you in the green room, it's going to be one of those, like, we're going to have people that's like, hey, man, you got to do a trade back, man, because of where we are.
It certainly would not surprise me if Carolina was aggressive in trying to move up in day two, or they were to move back in day one. Yeah. And Dan Morgan prefaced that in his interview with Mike K today, or it was yesterday, whichever it was.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah, I saw that.
They're going to look at they're going to explore every option. They're going to look at who's available on the board. It doesn't matter who's on the board. They want to bring in the best guys, but also they want to do what's best for the team. If trading back is best for the team, do it. Yeah. If trading up in day two to get that extra or to get that quality talent early in the second round, you do it.
Yeah.
So I really do like that Morgan is being a little bit open and honest about what they really want to do in the draft this year, and we'll know a lot more after the Senior Bowl this week, after the Shrine Bowl, after that's completed as well. We'll know a lot more after the Combine and free agency. And once free agency kind of comes and goes right before the draft, we'll have a really good idea of who could be in play for the Panthers at 8 or at any other part of the draft. So it's going to be very fascinating to see what Dan Morgan does.
Absolutely. So look, with no further ado, man, we're going to get right into it. So I'm going to transition this over. So first thing I want to look at here is this, man. This is our roster when you look at it from just the, like, let's see, right now I think it's showing in nickel personnel. Let's look at it in our base. So our base 3-4. I can look at this and say, okay, I can make an argument, and I want to ask you this. Based on what you see here and where we sit at pick 8, without knowing who picked who before, what would you say, and you can go offense if you want to, what's the most glaring need in your opinion that we have to address like immediately? And let's take free agency out of it because we know that we're probably going to address some of that with free agency, but just in draft focus only, what would you like be your first point of order?
Safety.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why I go safety is I think that's a very integral and important part of Evero's defense. And that defense does not play well without a quality safety on the back end. You need a guy like Justin Simmons type of player on the back end, that or even a Kareem Jackson. You had those two players in Denver when Evero was there, and that defense was incredible, especially on the back end. Now I get people are questioning towards like the back end of that season why that defense kind of faltered off, and to be fair, that team was a complete shit show. I think we remember the Russell Wilson, the tensions with Sean Payton and the rest of the team. You even had defensive players even getting after Russ in game, like screaming at him to
Yeah,
like play
yeah.
better.
Hmm.
So I, other than that, safety is going to be a very valuable piece defensively, and I think safety the value of the safety position is risen in Carolina or compared to every other team. So safety might be one of the more valuable positions defensively
Hmm.
in this system. Whereas in another system, it may not be as valuable as a pass rusher or a cornerback.
Hmm.
I think safety would be kind of up there in terms of the value of this defense in this system. So Malachi Starks would make the most sense at number 8 overall if the Panthers were to go in that direction. He brings everything you want in a safety to the table in a modern day safety. Excuse me, and you get incredible athleticism, get the ball skills, the man coverage ability, the versatility on all to play any third or second level position. Well, that's a little exaggerating. I would say he can be strong safety, box, big nickel,
Hmm.
slot defender, can play in the box. He has the capabilities to being a quality blitzer off the edge if he wanted to. This is a big safety that can
Yeah.
move really well, can track the ball really well.
Hmm.
He can be one of the more premier players at the safety position in the NFL. Like probably Justin Simmons type of level, but maybe even closer to Minka Fitzpatrick or Kyle Hamilton or
Hmm.
Derwin James, that type of player. And I get there are some reservations around Starks and more specifically around his positional value,
Hmm.
but Starks is one of those players that I don't think Carolina should really miss out on, especially when you have a chance at adding a quality player to that secondary alongside JC Horn.
Hmm.
Starks and Horn in your secondary in the long term, that's incredible. That would be great for the Carolina Panthers and what they want to do defensively.
That's interesting. So I'm gonna highlight one of my bros, man. Shout out to Poppin. Poppin says he says safety, but our lowest ranked player on the D line is Shy Total. That is true. Now here's my I kind of it's funny because when you do these mocks each week, every like one or two players moves up. There's been some guys that have moved up like really high. You know, take Mike Green for instance from Marshall. He shot up the boards as of recent. But I personally just don't see a D tackle that I would like. I don't think that Mason Graham is a nose, right? Like, and I could be wrong. Maybe you see something different with him than me, but I just don't see him as a nose tackle to fill that specific role. Like, I do see that there are some guys. I think that that's going to be something that's addressed through free agency. As a matter of fact, I think that's going to be the very first free agent signing that we make is going after some guy that would like sure up that nose tackle position.
Yep.
But there are some guys in this draft that I believe could cover that, and we'll get to that at a certain point. But so with safety being, your pick kind of in that, where you're thinking right now, I'm gonna actually go ahead and go to the simulator, man, because I got
Okay.
questions. I got questions about so many players, man. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting excited, man. So all right. So
And I want
go
real
ahead.
quick. I want to say one thing about Mason Graham is
Yeah.
that I he could play basically any alignment along the defensive front, but I think if you're wanting to play him full time at nose, you're not going to get the best player out of him. You're not
Right.
going to get the best out of Mason Graham. Like, sure, he can take on a center one on one and win pretty easily, but he's not that big bodied defensive lineman that's gonna just devour gaps like you see with. I'm going to say Derek Brown for example, just
Hmm.
because he is the biggest player along that defensive front.
Yeah.
So I, as much as I would love Mason Graham, I think I would take him in I over. Yeah, I'd probably take him over Malachi Starks, but I think with just the value defensively and what you were just saying, I think addressing defensive line in free agency, I think that's going to be the biggest priority, and
Hmm.
they can always add a nose tackle or a bigger bodied defensive tackle in the draft later in the draft, and
Hmm.
you see some of the interviews that Carolina has had with some prospects like defensive lineman prospects. Some of them are like 6'3", 335. Like these are big
Yeah.
body players.
Yeah.
That is a little bit of a little bit of a change from years past where Carolina kind of avoided a true nose tackle. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do up front, and especially if they're going to go after a true nose tackle in free
Yeah.
agency or the draft.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's get going, man. So I'm going to go ahead and pick us here at 8. Now, here's something I like to do. So I'm not going to go like blazing speed through each pick, but I'm going to kind of go, and then I'll recap. So basically what I do is this. I'm going to be asking you questions because I'm kind of the, I guess, moderator over the mock, and then I want you to, pick the players as we go along, and then I'll offer, some of my commentary as well. And ask some questions, but we'll go 7 rounds. I'm going to change a few things up. So I just kind of go middle of the pack here with all the, I guess, settings that you can have, like as far as randomness, care for positional value, public versus PFF board, and everything like that. And so, yeah, with that being said, man, let's get right into it. All right. So we're going to enter this draft here.
Was that you or was that
no, that was me. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. I gotta sign up for PFF. Hold on a minute.
Look at me.
Hey,
I need to get a PFF promo code. Yeah. Let's go.
I'm like, maybe there might be some copyright issues there. I don't know.
No, I use it all the time, and it hadn't hurt my monetization yet. I'll be honest with you, man. You gotta I am the sound effects king, so if I just drop a random sound effect out there, man, just bear with me. But okay. I do it all the time. All right, I
got you.
So let me ask you this first off: do you want to trade back immediately, or do you want to go straight to picking at 8?
I got to see what's available at 8. I kind of just want to see how the board falls here.
All right, let's do it. So I'm gonna hit the button. So we'll go back and recap. All right, so there's a lot of my goodness, man. This is gonna be good already. All right, so Cam Ward went first overall, Shador second to the Browns, Abdul Carter, which listen, I know many people this is probably where I'm gonna ask I'm gonna wait for a second. I'm gonna recap the players and then I'll ask this.
Okay.
All right, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Josh Simmons, and Luther Burton. So now the Carolina Panthers are on the clock, so I'll give it to you, Jared. What's your thoughts?
So, man, I mean, you got options here, and Ted McMillan, Mason Graham, Malachi Starks, Jalen Walker. I mean, I think those guys are definitely in play, but I think this is a situation where it's best player available. And as much as I was saying, safety was probably the biggest need or one of the bigger needs defensively.
Jared, hold on 1 second, man. They just let me know something. I just forgot. I got too excited. I only did 1 round. So now I'm going to go back. So now the board's going to be crazy. This thing's going to get crazy now. Hold on, let me go back and change.
We're going to have some fun tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of fun tonight.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so let's go back into it. My bad, man. All right, so.
You're good, brother. You're good.
I got way too ahead of myself. All right, so let me just do this real quick. 7 rounds. Boom. Let's go back. Right there is fine. And then just go middle of the pack with everything else. All right. So here we go. Boom. Now, here we are. For real. Now, let's hit the button. See where we are. Looks like kind of the same, except for Tet went off the board and Will Johnson went off the board.
Oh, my goodness.
And now Abdul is right there. It's going to be crazy.
Hey, without hesitation, we're putting the pick in. It's Abdul Carter. Like, not even a second thought. You draft a premier player like this. All right. It's Carter at 8 in this scenario specifically.
Right. I have a question. All right. Mm-hmm. Let's just say, backing up hypothetically, because I did see when you started talking BPA, I kind of saw where your mind was going, and it was likely going to be Ted McMillan, right? I could be wrong. When the last mock that we just did a moment ago, where it was only 1 round and he was on the board, was that kind of the direction you would have went, considering that he was right there?
I was probably going to go Mason Graham. Okay. More so just because of based on my board, Mason Graham is a much higher ranked player on my board than Ted McMillan.
Okay.
I'm not as high on McMillan as others, and I
Oh, do
see
tell.
fans are hyping him up a little bit. I have concerns about him before the catch. I know he has the ability to improve his release packages and as a route runner because he has the fluidity, he has the quickness, and also he has the athleticism to improve in those areas. I guess my concern is, I'd rather have a more complete receiver that is a little bit more complete in before the catch as a route runner, as a separator at the line of scrimmage than someone else. So like and once I get through Emike Ibuka's film, I have a feeling I'm going to be a lot higher on Ibuka than a lot of other people, not
I
only
can understand that.
fans, but in the draft community, because that dude's a baller. Same with Matthew Golden. I'm much higher on him than even Luther Burden. I like Ted. I would be on board with Ted for sure, but I think Mason Graham, based on my board, would be the pick, and he would be the best player available on the board.
Even over Abdul in this situation?
Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got to double check.
Go.
Hold on.
All right.
It would be tough for me. So kind of just spoiling my board a little bit, and I won't reveal my full board until closer to the draft, kind of in line with how the Panthers and any other team do or complete their board or finish it up. Mason Graham is ahead of Abdul Carter for me by a decimal point. So,
man, we're getting exclusives over here, man. That's what I'm talking about.
It's tight. It's really tight. But I think in this situation, you have a chance because Carter has the ability to be one of the best pass rushers in the league, and Carolina has not had that in a long time, or not necessarily a long time. They just had Brian Burns, but I would say between Carter and Graham, I think positional value takes over here. Carter would be the pick if it came down to it. And as much as I have Mason Graham above Carter here on my board, for me it comes down to just positional value in that regard, and I would not have an issue either way. If Carolina picked Mason Graham over Abdul Carter, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But I think in this scenario, you got to go best player available on this board and also go with the positional value. So I like Abdul Carter with this pick.
Abdul Carter it is, man. All right, now I got a question. Before I put this card in, I'm going to ask you one question because this was so important to me.
Okay.
What am I missing with James Pierce?
I know where you're coming from with this. I totally get it. I totally get it because he's a small his frame is concerning, but I think he has more room to fill it. And he has different ways of winning as a run defender compared to a player that's been hyped up in Panthers fan circles, Mike Green. He offers more as a pass rusher. I get the concerns. I think I have probably the same concerns you have, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't mind Pierce that early, but I think if you're trading back, he would be a choice. He would probably be one of the top choices. But I just saw in a couple mock drafts today, he's anywhere from inside the top 15 to back end of the first round. So like the opinions after Abdul Carter with this edge group varies a lot among the draft community and probably amongst the NFL as well. So you could see some surprises in this draft, especially with assuming Mike Green has a terrific week here or a terrific week in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
You could see him go high in the draft, not top 10 high, but high, probably top 20 is probably what my ceiling would be for him. But I do have more concerns with Green as a run defender than I do Pierce. But I totally get where you're coming from, man. Understanding that smaller defender may not be the most top tier pass. he is certainly disruptive, and I mean I think he had the highest pressure rate of any pass rusher in college football, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and there were times where he did go quiet, but there were also more often than not that he didn't. So, but again, I understand where you're coming from, man.
Because when I look at, like, okay, Abdul Carter, as great as he is, right? If we look at James Pierce's last year, right? There were some people that had him as potentially the number one pick in the draft coming into this season, right? And if you look at his stats last year compared to Abdul's, the only real difference is the pressures, right? Or the hurries, I would say.
Yep.
Abdul spent the majority as an off-ball linebacker and 1 year at the edge. Now, I guess you could say, like, this was he made as big an impact and showed what he can. And that Notre Dame game, I think, is what really changed everybody's mind. Like, oh my God, this dude is like, this could be Von Miller, right? But when I look at Pierce, if he fills out, I see Javon Curse. And it's like, that's just so hard to, like, it's hard for me not to unsee that. But for the here and now, we're going to go with the pick that you picked, and we're going with Abdul Carter. So I'm going to draft him. Now, this is where it's going to get really interesting, because I'm going to blaze through the rest of these picks. Man, we got a long, long time, as you see, before we pick again. I mean, a long time. And so here we are finally on the clock at 58. So now we
can definitely look through some of the players. Yeah,
yes, sir.
This is truly where the fun begins.
This is where the fun begins. So let's do it. All right, we're on the board at 58. Jared, you are my GM. Where are we going?
Let's see. So first, I want to look at the safeties.
Okay.
I kind of just want to see what's available. Xavier Watts, I think, would be a good pick. Would be a solid option. Kevin Winston. Let me look at the linebackers real quick, because I saw one player that I'm certainly high on at the linebacker position. He might.
I think I know who that might
arguably be the man. Wow,
Jalen Walker fell that far.
Well,
oh my God!
I did hear that the guy. So I know the guy personally that works or helps out with the mock draft simulator, the rankings. Trevor Sikkema, who's incredible, like one of the best draft follows you'll ever have. He is a terrific dude, but he's a little lower on Walker, so this is kind of representing of how he might be feeling, but also kind of just where everything is at the moment. But I think Walker ends up going much higher than.
I would see Mikael Williams falling that far before I see Walker.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this is dream scenario to have Jalen Walker, but I feel like you got a similar player with Abdul Carter. Like, Carter has linebacker ability. I wouldn't recommend him dropping into coverage, but like shallow flats, like we see some defensive ends and edge rushers drop into on occasion, like that's fine. And you can play him in the Micah Parsons role.
That's what I was about to say. His number sake, Micah Parsons,
And with Jalen Walker, real quick, and we'll be talking about Jalen Walker plenty throughout the process. Jalen Walker, I think, fits more what Zach Bond does and also what Andrew Van Ginkel does in terms of being that stack defender, playing the run really well. I think Bond and probably Van Ginkel are better pass coverage defenders, but they play a similar role to what Walker would be doing in the NFL, where you play him stack linebacker early downs, and then you allow him to just run wild as a pass rusher. Doesn't matter if he's playing as a stack defender, or you're playing him off the edge, or you're lining him up, bucking the A gap. Like, you can move him around, and he's going to be very disruptive. He's currently my edge 2 with a first round grade. I don't have him. I do have him graded as a linebacker as well. He's graded now as a first round linebacker, but it's because he got an elite grade in my blitzing and pass rush traits area, and that to me was what stood out for me with Walker on tape, is that he's a terrific pass rusher, and he's also a great run defender.
It's interesting you mentioned Zach Bond just real quick. That's the guy from Philly, right? The linebacker from Philly.
All-pro. He's an all-pro.
All-pro this year, yeah. It's funny because I was listening to Drew Brees talking today, and he was talking about how Zach was on the Saints when he was still there, right? And like, he was just one of those guys kind of waiting in the wings until he finally got his opportunity, and then he just absolutely ran with it. He is an absolute problem. So, like, one of the things that I want to tell people, and I'm going to address the chat here in a minute because I don't want to leave them hanging, but one of the things that I'm big on my channel is talking about just the importance of player development. Like, yes, we can go through the draft and get guys, but man, you have got to. You don't have a Josh Norman. You don't have, some of these great players. Heck, even, Captain Munderland, who I talked to, who became a solid nickel corner for us. You don't have guys like him without development. It takes time sometimes to get these guys going, but you can still have the expectation of drafting a guy that can be impactful right away. So I don't want to take that away either. But I want to go through some of these comments really quick because I know the chat's been kind of buzzing a little bit and I haven't had a chance to address them. Ricky Raines. Oh, Ricky Raines is here. Cool.
Hey,
Appreciate
my
you, Ricky.
dude.
Yeah,
Ricky.
man. Salute to Ricky.
That's my
Ricky
dog.
said, yeah, man, I
brother.
like him a lot. He's a super smart guy. Got to get him on at some point soon. Super, super smart guy.
Oh, for sure. You're going to have a fun time with Ricky, my man.
Yeah, he's
a blast.
Awesome guy. But he says, I'm late getting here. I'm bummed that I see that name at pick 56, just a couple before
Gene
Carolina.
Higgins. That's his guy. That's his guy. Yeah. He and I were actually talking. Who were we talking about earlier today? I think it was Ibuka.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a big fan of Higgins and like just the skill set alone. I think we're going to see a lot of Jaden Higgins at the Senior Bowl this week. So I'm looking forward to getting my first exposure to Higgins in terms of just actually paying attention to him. I didn't really get the chance to when I was watching Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. Mm-hmm. So this is really truly my first exposure. So I'm really excited to see Higgins on the board. Let me see what other Cameron Williams, Caleb Johnson, Savion Williams, Chris Paul Jr. I like the linebackers here with Walker and Schweringer or Schlesinger. I think we just kind of let's ignore Jalen Walker because let's assume he's
already gone. Yeah,
he's already off.
Of course.
Schlesinger is a linebacker that's going to begin to rise a good bit because he's a modern day Mike linebacker, rangy defender, very smart, very athletic, can play playing coverage really well, can play the run really well. He's not the biggest defender though. He's not super big, and you would think that's a concern with him, but it really isn't. He takes on contact really well. He fits the run really well, and that to me is really impressive. He's going to be a starting Mike linebacker in the NFL from day one. So could he be a possibility here? Sure. But I do want to look at defensive linemen. I want to look at receivers as well.
Okay.
I want to look at the tight ends, and then we'll go back to linebacker if at all possible.
Where do you want to start?
Let's look at receiver because like I'm trying to go through my head different scenarios, different hypotheticals. This is what I do every time I do a mock draft, especially for Panthers, where I run through the scenarios. All right, what if this happened to free agency and this happened to draft? Like that's just rumbling in my mind. So Isaiah Bond I had in the second round in my latest mock draft or my mock draft from a week ago. Explosive playmaker. He's a little inconsistent in terms of the production. He's had some injuries, some nagging injuries that kind of affected his ability. He has some issues with ball skills at the moment, but I think you look back past that 2024 tape, you look at 2023, that's the player you're going to get in Isaiah Bond. He's an explosive playmaker. If he had the production and if he was able to produce, I think he's a first-round wide receiver. He might be the top wide receiver in this draft, but unfortunately, just the inconsistencies. There's some red flags there that kind of had me back off a little bit. But I think in that scenario, last week in my mock draft, I was more thinking, all right, if they added this player in free agency or that player, maybe that'll open the door for Isaiah Bond in round 2. But I think we avoid receiver here. I think we're going to wait and see. So let's go look at defensive linemen. Okay. Let's kind of look at what's available there on the board.
Absolutely.
I did notice a player
I have a guy here
Alfred
that
Collins.
Alfred Collins. That's exactly
Alfred Collins.
he was. So when I've done
So
my mocks, that's exactly who I've been on like the whole time. Yeah, but
So I did write down his measurements
hmm
earlier. His official verified measurements came in today for the Senior Bowl: 6'5", 319, and this is a big player. Like on
yeah,
tape, I'm looking at Derek Brown's
yeah,
brother.
he's
It
a
has to
beast.
be his brother, but he's not the level of Derek Brown. But in
No,
terms of just the size and probably just the raw power, it's similar to Derek Brown. But
hmm
also you get someone that should probably be playing more as the up tackle, probably playing that nose position.
hmm
That's someone that Carolina will be looking into, that bigger, beefier defensive tackle at the 0 and the 1 tech.
that's
Collins would
interesting.
be right there.
Do you not think he's, because I know that typically your nose tackle, you want to have someone that has a little bit, I wouldn't want to say low range of motion, but like, do you think he's a little bit too tall at 6'5" to play that position? Now, granted,
There are leverage issues. Yeah,
right?
I
Yeah.
have some concerns with his leverage. He has tight hips, so he doesn't corner well.
hmm
And he does expose his chest because he's just a much taller defender.
Yeah.
And I mean, we remember Derek Brown kind of had those same issues early in his career, but
Yeah.
as we've seen, it's worked out. I would say it's
Absolutely.
worked out.
Yeah.
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 So, I like the flashes Colin displays as a pass rusher, but I think I it's it's kind of interesting to have this discussion because I think there are quality defensive prospects on the board. I would
hmm
also like to see cornerbacks. So that's that's one player I would like. Omar Norman Lott is someone that I think will rise up pretty quickly in
hmm
this draft process, especially if he has a good week this week in Mobile. This is a player that I think he only played like 17 snaps per game. Like he was more of a rotational player,
hmm
but he should have been starting from the jump. Like this is a guy that is disruptive, is a quality pass rusher, solid run defender. Like you're gonna get a good football player in Omar Norman Lott.
hmm
Um, so I kind of want to see the PFF stuff from Norman Lott right
Yeah.
here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the Kent State game that grade's pretty accurate. The Alabama game that's pretty accurate. State as well. He did struggle a little bit later on the season. I do think that like some of the for me PFF the grades for different positions for me are accurate for some, but
hmm
a little inaccurate for others just because of how PFF grades and views different positions. So it's more just your preference. But for me, I always try to trust the tape of what I see on film. But the grades here mostly match what I've seen on tape so far. Haven't done the final eval on Norman Lott, but he's going to be in that early day 2 range for me. Like this is a deep defensive line class, and I'm really excited that Carolina's going to have an opportunity to
Yeah.
draft a quality defensive lineman. So
Absolutely.
let's
So
see.
is that where we're going?
I want to see cornerback real quick.
Okay.
I want to see
Absolutely.
cornerback.
Now, to your
But
point
I
about
got a player in mind.
okay, I do too. Is at cornerback, but he might be it might be a little bit too high for him. I really, really, really like Mello. Is it Mello Dotson from Kansas? I know Kobe Bryant has been doing pretty well here at the.
Let's
What is
see.
it that's going on this week? Is it? It's not. Is it the Senior Bowl like preliminaries or the
Is the
Shrine
Senior
Bowl?
Bowl. So at the same time, you have the Shrine Bowl going on. Like the practices are, or
Mm-hmm.
I think the 3 practices are done in terms of like public viewing, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. And then you have the Senior Bowl game Thursday.
Okay.
Then you have, or the Shrine Bowl game Thursday. You have the Senior Bowl practices starting tomorrow through Thursday, and then the game is Saturday.
Okay.
So yeah, it's weird. Like Shrine Bowl used to be like a full week before the Senior Bowl. Now it's kind of like muched in together. I've heard a little bit of like there's a little bit of a rivalry going on between the executive director of the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. It's a little. I don't want to get into that mess, but Just looking at some of the corners here, Mello Dotson,
Yep, he's there.
Thomas, Harrison. These are guys that, or Thomas at least, you're going to see on the field in Mobile. So I'm excited to see that he's a physical press man corner. Same thing with Darian Porter from Iowa State. He's going to be a physical corner or a physical defender as well. I think he probably already went. Yeah, he may have already off the board. That's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. To Dallas. Yep, right here, pick 44.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, man, Siobhan Revel. 6'3" guy, super tall, rangy, athletic. Like, he was another guy I was thinking that may fall a little bit further. And then, gosh, Cam Scatterbo going this high at 40. That's pretty wild. But yes, so yeah, your guy's off the board there. So
all right, so I kind of want to hear what you think here.
So that's where I pull up our little chart right here, right? And I understand that you might not have the best, like, this is where, my homie Poppin was in the chat. If he's still here, I'm on board. Even if Alfred Collins or the D tackle from Tennessee that you just mentioned, right? If they're not like dedicated nose, right? When we go nickel, you still got, 4-man front. I would like them in rotation with someone like Ashawn. I would like to see them in rotation in the nose position with Shy Tuttle, because anything has to be better than that. Anything. Like, and this is no disrespect to Shy Tuttle, because Shy Tuttle's a good player in the right scheme, but not the 3-4, especially not at a nose, right? So I don't think you can go wrong if you decide to go Alfred Collins or if you go with the Tennessee tackle in this position, because you gotta have, if you're gonna run this kind of defense, you gotta have like just massive dudes at the point of attack, because your linebackers have to be able to run clean. And I ain't gonna say, I'm not gonna act like I came up with that. That was something that Captain Munnerlin said that, but that's what he was talking about when he's like, not having the guys. He's like, man, you've got to have, as what David Gettleman used to affectionately call the hog mollies up front, to be able to keep those linebackers clean, to operate in space so they're not getting mauled by guards. So yes, I probably would go with a defensive tackle here, without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm on board, and I think Alfred Collins would be the pick. That's probably who I'd be taking. I love Schlesinger. Big fan of his game. I have him graded higher than Collins on my board, but the Carolina Panthers they desperately need help defensively. I think after the first round, it's all bets are off kind of at that point. So I think Carolina should go Alfred Collins here. I think let's go with Collins.
All right. Card is in. Let's do it. Jared Morgan on the board. So here we are again. We're back.
Listen,
on the board
man,
again.
I never want to be an actual NFL GM. That would be the shittiest freaking job in the world.
On earth. Yeah.
Hey, man, like your job is on the line every year. It's just like everyone hates you outside the organization. Like, no, sir. I love what I do right now.
Yeah.
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh, Harold Fannin.
All right, here we are. So
there.
let's go back and recap some of the people that were taken after we took Alfred Collins. So we had Restrepo go to the Baltimore Ravens. Your buddy Carson, went to the Lions. Xavier Watt to Washington. Jalen Royals, that's a standout name. Harrison goes to Kansas City. Jalen Walker finally goes to New York. Man, and pick in round 3. That's crazy. Man, Travion Henderson, big name, goes to the Patriots, and a name that I like a lot, and I was gonna throw this guy's name out there, but I have a hard time with Deion Walker. Yes, the upside is incredible, but man, tall guys like him usually, like we had a guy like that once upon a time. Phil.
Same with Collins. He struggles with leverage.
Yes,
and I think he has a conditioning problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not to be offensive or anything. Like
no, not at all.
It's on film that he's struggling on the field. Like you can see him get tired and just the gas. Like he'll move 100 miles an hour and look like a total monster. Mm-hmm. Then like for a stretch, he just kind of phases out. Carolina Longhorns. Let's just keep on our helm here and just be done. We're good. We're good.
Right.
So,
All right, so you started a firestorm because we're here now, and somebody fell that I didn't think would be here, Harold Fanning Jr. So you started a firestorm when you were talking about what's the tight end from Penn State?
Tyler Warren.
Tyler
Yeah.
Warren, yes. And you
I
talked
will
about
never get rid of that agenda, my man. I want fans of the chat to know that agenda is never going away, man.
Yeah.
That's never going away. And shout out to Smooth of Four Man Rush.
Mm-hmm.
He and I are in a Panthers chat. We're both pushing the Tyler Warren at number 8 agenda. Like I'm sure that's high, but you get a playmaker in Tyler Warren. But I rest my case. I rest. I digress.
So let me ask you, how do you feel about Harold Fanning in this spot? Like, if we're going BPA,
my only issue is I don't know what he is as a blocker. Like I haven't exactly done a full deep dive into Fanning, and I need to know what he is as a blocker. I need to see that on film. I think he's at the Senior Bowl this week. If I'm not mistaken, he is. He'll be. I think he's playing this week. They're over the last like 12 hours, 24 hours, like a bunch of players have left. And then Senior Bowl had to accept a bunch of other invites. So I got to look that up real quick. But I think if Fanning is playing in the Senior Bowl this week, if he's participating, I want to see him as a blocker, just how he does in one-on-one drills against opposing linebackers and pass rushers. But man, Fanning is just a playmaker. Like if he fell to the 3rd round and Carolina's there on the board, that's tough to pass up. But I think Carolina already has that in Jatavian Sanders, and that's why I'm on board with Warren that early, is because he's a great blocker. I think he, in terms of his technique, it's a little bit of a work in progress, but he's got a physical demeanor that's hard to teach. And he's just so physical in the trenches that that's why I would take Warren that high, just because of his value as a blocker.
Right.
But I kind of want to see who else is at tight end. I know Gunnar Helm's there. That's going to be a popular pick. I want to see a linebacker. I want to see, cornerback.
All right, so Gunnar Helm. Yeah, Arroyo. Mitchell Evans is still there.
I mean, there's going to be – this is a good tight end class. Like,
it is.
I don't think you can really go wrong at tight end this year. So Carolina's going to end up – I hope they end up with a quality tight end in the draft. So let's look at linebacker. Bear Carter, Jack Kaiser, Jeffrey Bassa.
How do you feel about Kaiser? Because I'm torn. I see greatness, or I see a slower Josie Jewell.
He does remind me of Josie Jewell a little bit, but I think I haven't done a full deep dive into him yet, so I don't have a lot to say about Kaiser. Of course, as a Clemson Tiger fan, I've seen plenty of Barrett Carter. I'm probably going to end up being higher on Carter just because of what I've seen at Clemson. He's had his struggles a little bit. I think he would be a nice pick here, but he's had issues of missed tackles. So I gotta see a little bit better, and I also gotta do a little bit more of a deep dive. Bassa we'll see this week at the Senior Bowl. So that's going to be interesting to see. He's got athleticism. I think he was recruited as a former safety. So he's had playing time at safety. So you get the athleticism, you get the coverage ability. As a physical player in general, I think he's a little bit raw as a tackler, just from preliminary stuff I've seen. So that's kind of where I'm looking at right now. I don't know if, let's see. I wonder if there's any cornerbacks that could be available if Kobe Bryant is there.
I do like Jeffrey Bassa. I was going to say really quick. He reminds me. I don't think he's quite Jeremiah Cormora, Owosu Cormora, but very, very athletic. Flies around, and I think the thing is instincts. Like if you would hope that those instincts could translate to the NFL, and maybe that's part of the reason why he's fallen, at this, to this point. But super athletic guy. But you said let's go to corners real quick. So, and I wanted to highlight one thing. Aries Claire, thank you for commenting, Aries. She says the best blocker in the draft is Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech. Do you agree?
Again, I haven't done, so a lot of these guys that like we're getting deeper into, like I haven't done a true full eval in on, so I can't really say anything about Jackson Hawes at the moment. So I do apologize for that. Haven't gotten that deep into. Oh, Thomas is still available.
Thomas and Mello Dotson are still on the board.
Parrish is on the board. I wonder if Kobe Bryant is on the board.
Let's see.
If he's there,
I don't. Oh yeah, he's there. Wow.
I think he's going to probably be in the 3rd round range, probably 3rd, 4th round range.
I wouldn't be mad at him or Mello Dotson, either one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Thomas here.
Okay.
Because like he provides that man coverage value and that physical ability that I think the Panthers are missing on the boundary. It could be for the CB2 spot. It could be a depth piece. It could be a developmental player in some sort. But Thomas, for me, fits what Carolina needs at cornerback right now. And I like Mike Jackson.
Right. I was going to ask you, what do you think about Mike?
Yeah, some inconsistencies over the course of the season. In zone, in man, he's a serviceable defender. And I think you do bring him back on like a 1-year deal. But I think you could definitely do better than Mike Jackson. So for me, I think you got to add a physical presence at corner. You got to get someone that has man ability. I like Thomas here. I think that would be a nice developmental piece. Someone I could definitely see getting playing time later into the year. And I think if you go to a coach like Jonathan Cooley, who's terrific with DBs, I think that would be a great spot for Thomas. So I really do like Thomas.
All right. Consider it done. So Thomas it is. Want to just shout out the chat real quick. A few people commenting. Poppin said, why not safety here? Lathan Ransom. Yeah, I was going to say Lathan Ransom. Who else? I don't know if Nick, I can't pronounce his last name, the kid from South Carolina. Okay, both of them are there.
Oh, he's on the board. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, that changes things.
Hey, salute to Poppin.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on. We gotta figure this out. All right. Let's see. I like Nick. I like Ransom. I think Nick's gonna be like among the top safeties. I think within the next few weeks, I expect Nick to be much higher. Like he's probably going to be simulated into the 1st round.
He is as close to. I know people are gonna. I'm probably gonna get tomatoes in the chat when I say this.
Do it.
In my opinion, he's the closest thing I've seen to Cam Chancellor.
Wow.
He'll fill out more. Man, he's a beast, and he's a ball hawk.
Ball hawk, physical defender. I mean, what's not to like? And he can come downhill and play the run well. Explode down the alley.
Yeah,
I completely. I mean, now that Amani Wari is on the board here, take him. Like this is a 1st round safety, in my opinion.
Can I just do this real quick? So I'm probably going to get flagged for this, and I'm okay with that. I will say if you would be so kind to do so, if you don't mind to donate to the channel, $1 Carolina, because I'm definitely about to lose monetization or anything like it coming up now, because I just want to look at some of this guy's film because it is ridiculous. And the only way I can do that is to go to YouTube. So Nick, here we go. All right. So this guy is insane, man. Super physical. I mean,
it looks like a linebacker. Ball Network has him as safety.
Even over Starks.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So this is why it's early in the process. You're going to see that this simulator is going to look a lot different in 2 months.
All right. So which way we going? We going with Nick?
Yeah.
All right.
And Makuba, I love Makuba.
Yeah, I saw Ricky said that. Ricky said Makuba.
Makuba's a fun player. Yeah. But yeah, let's go, Nick. Like, and look, as a Clemson fan, when it comes to draft stuff, I don't really have any like, oh, I never want to draft a South Carolina player, because I feel like recently South Carolina players have had some pretty damn good success.
Yeah, especially in their secondary, man. I'm a Clemson guy myself, but I can appreciate like you. Yeah. So, all right, Nick, it is. So that takes us down to, oh my gosh. It's a lot, man. So here we are, pick 109.
All right, so this might be a time where we go after a wide receiver, or maybe an offensive skill player, running back, tight end. I think this is the time to do it. I
have a guy, but I know I'm going to get killed in the chat. I know I'm going to get killed in the chat.
Speak it. Speak his name.
I've been seeing this guy at the Shrine Bowl this week, and I've been seeing the practices, and him absolutely just.
Is it Trayshawn Holden?
No. No.
I don't know.
Man, I'm serious. It feels so crazy to say this out loud, because people are going to be like, are you serious this high? Why do I have this just like when I see Jimmy Horn Jr., I see Tank Dell, I see Downs, I see the super fast, shifty slot receiver that could break a game open that we've been missing, that would create one-on-one opportunities for X on the boundary, or, Coker, I don't know. Maybe I'm off my rocker. I feel like there was so much emphasis, and I can say this about LeJontay Wester as well, but there was so much emphasis on Travis Hunter in that offense and getting him touches, rightfully so, because he was, always open, that the few times, and okay, this is where I want to show tape one more time before we really, and then I don't care what happens after this. But his speed, man, is just, it's just unbelievable. Like what he does in open space. And I know he's a smaller guy, but still, it's just seeing what he does to people in open space is just ridiculous. And it's just hard for me to unsee that. And maybe it is a little bit too high to take him right here, because I'm sure he'll probably fall a little bit further. But considering what I've been seeing coming out of the Shrine Bowl this week, I'm not so sure. Jared, your thoughts?
I'm keeping up with the YouTube chat on my phone, because I can't see it on this platform. Butterfingers Horn. So from King Jermaine, Butterfingers Horn. So
that's one of my mods.
Yeah. So I've heard some drop issues with Horn, but he is an explosive player. I think.
Look how he comes off the line on this play that they're getting ready to show. He just watch this. Boom! Right there. Like, my gosh.
Very explosive.
Yes.
And you'll get defenders moving to line of scrimmage. I do want to just see who's available at wide receiver, though. So I kind of want to take a peek, see what's there.
All right. Jalen Noel's there.
Jalen Noel. Let's see. Pat Bryant, Torrey Horton. Let's see. Kobe Hudson, Antoine Wells.
Kyron Lacey. That'll be a no. Yeah. That'll be a no.
Yeah. Go ahead and remove him off your board.
Right.
Ricky White, an explosive playmaker. Trayshawn Holden is showing now at the Shrine Bowl. Oregon wide receiver. I don't know if he goes that high, like high day 3. We'll see. But that's one player I think could be a target in day 3.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at tight end. I do feel like tight end is probably going to have some guys available. I got a feeling Jake Britton's or Mitchell Evans, Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor, Breckinson.
Britton's still there.
Yeah.
There's Jackson Halls. There's Aries Claire's guy. Yeah. My question with tight end is this. I know you'd be rolling into year 4 with Tommy Tremble. Like, what's your thoughts on him?
Solid receiver, quality blocker. I think you bring him back another 2-3 year contract. That not something incredibly expensive. I think
Mm-hmm.
similar to the Ian Thomas deal, but
Yeah.
I think a little bit more front loaded where you have room for flexibility to move on from him after 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I would definitely bring back Tommy Tremble, but I think you got to add another tight end to that room, another young tight end. Brendan Steele would be an option. I loved what Brendan Steele brought to the table. He's got some fans in the draft community.
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Ferguson. I know there are probably some Oregon Duck fans in the chat. Um, let's see. Who were some other tight ends on the board there? Mason Taylor. I mean, a good amount of these guys are going to be at the Senior Bowl. Brendan Steele, Taylor, Ferguson, like that, they're going to be available. They're going to be at the Senior Bowl. We'll
Mm-hmm.
be able to see what they'll bring to the table.
Would you
Let's look.
potentially address center at this pick?
Let's look at center real quick.
Okay.
Because if Jared Wilson is available, I'd seriously consider him at this point because I think Wilson's probably the best pure starting safety in this draft class. And this is not the year to get a starting safety
Mm-hmm.
compared to like last year was the year to go and get a starting safety in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I unfortunately Carolina didn't take advantage of it, so that's disappointing. But
Right.
yeah, I got a feeling Jared Wilson went off the board already, and that's disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing him here.
No.
Cooper Mays is there. Double up.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he's gone.
That's
The only reason I would suggest that is just because one of the things I think is going to be extremely important, and I think you're going to see this in every draft moving forward. With Brady Christensen likely being out the door this year, obviously you got Chandler Zavala who's developing. Nash, Yash Nyman, not Nash. Yash Nyman, I don't know that I wouldn't consider taking if you're going to take a lineman here, potentially center or tackle, but I think it's going to be something they address every single year because they're going to want to keep Bryce as clean as possible, right? Because that's what any good organization will do, especially now that you have a springboard to, kind of build from, bringing in Robert Hunt, bringing in Damian Lewis and, having Austin Corbett, even though he's not always healthy, but you've got like a platform by which to continue to just develop those specific positions. And so I do think that they'll address those. But what are we doing here?
Let's see. I wonder if Marcus Mimbo is available.
And he is
offensive lineman, offensive tackle, I believe.
Okay.
He's going to be listed as an offensive tackle if he's not on the board. So this is a guy that teams see as a potential starting center in the league, but also could see he can play guard, he can play tackle. This is, if you're looking for a Brady Christensen in this draft, I think Mimbo is going to be that guy. MBOW. I think he already went off the board, so
he may have. Let's take a look.
Doesn't even matter at this point. He's already.
He went to the Jets.
Jets.
Yep, sure
Freaking
did.
Jets.
So are we going BPA here?
Yeah.
Will
not
Howard?
Quarterback. Scroll down a little bit, just to see.
Another edge, maybe.
Maybe another defensive tackle. I think we got to focus on an offensive player here. Best offensive player available, or just based on the value of need on the board, more weighted BPA.
In that case, I would say
Evans. Let's go Evans because I think he has a similar skill set to what Tremble has. See, the production isn't quite there. I mean, a little bit similar to Tremble, but I think you're going to get a solid player that can line up as a big slot, as an F move tight end, in line as well. You see some of the numbers here as well. So I would not mind Mitchell Evans. I think there's so many good tight ends in this draft. I don't think you can go wrong. Whoever you take, I think Evans would be a nice pick here for Carolina.
All right. Well, We're turning the card in, and Mitchell Evans is the pick. Now, the beautiful thing is that we only got to wait 2 picks until we're back on the board again. So here we are at pick number 112. Where are we going?
Let's go Ricky White here.
Ricky White? Okay, I like it. I'll tell you another one I like that flew up the boards is
or Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel is also still on the board.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's still on the board. Okay. So you want to go Noel or White?
Let's see. Maybe we should let the chat figure it out.
Yeah. So chat, let us know. First of all, I want to say this. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening. We have collective now. I don't know how many people are on YouTube versus how many people are on X, but I know we have 240 people watching and we only got 32 likes. Can we please get that up if y'all don't mind? Pause. Yeah, let's get the shoot those likes up. But tell me what you guys think, chat. So we got Jalen Noel and we got Ricky White on the board here. So I want to hear from some of you guys. I'm hearing Antoine Powell-Ryland is nice. Let's see who else. Kind of going back through.
See someone
Jake Majors.
Knowles.
Yep. Poppin says White. LaDarian Carr says Knowles. So we got a Knowles versus White going on here.
I'm not seeing the X chat, so maybe we got a lot of Whites here.
A lot of White. Yep, I'm seeing White as well. Poppin says, let's pull him up. He said, White is my sleeper. I've been talking about him for a minute, Ricky White. So, yeah, let's go to, let's pull him up.
Yep.
Let's see. Is he still?
Honestly, I don't think you can really go wrong with White. I think I could see Knowles taken in day 2. I could see White being one of the top receivers taken in day 3.
Mm-hmm.
The production's there. He's explosive. He's shown out at the Shrine Bowl, and I think he's the type of player Carolina will probably be taking a close look at, or has been taking a close look at. Like Dan Morgan and a bunch of his scouts were at the Shrine Bowl this weekend, and I think they're going to be traveling. I think they're traveling tonight over to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. So they're going to be at both events. So they got the players taken care of. They got the interviews taken care of. And also, just keep it in the back of your head. Remember last year, Carolina interviewed Xavier Leggett at the Senior Bowl twice. Mm-hmm. Guess who ended up being the first round pick?
Yeah.
Later on. So, Senior Bowl is going to be – I could see the Panthers' first round pick being from the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Have a feeling it's probably going to be an underclassman, more likely. And I think just because they're now picking high in the draft compared to last year, you're going to have more opportunities to take a top underclassman in this draft. So Ricky White, explosive playmaker, totally understand where and you get special teams values, as Ricky is saying. You get someone that can contribute early on. He's saying Noel is the better receiving prospect, which I wouldn't have a problem with. I honestly, between White and Noel, really, it honestly doesn't matter to me. But we're seeing a lot of
I'm seeing a lot of Ricky White. Yeah.
I think we got Ricky White a lot of Ricky White fans in the chat. So,
all right,
let's give the chat what they deserve. Let's
do it.
Ricky White.
All right. So Ricky White it is. Congratulations to the chat. You have officially got your pick. So now we fall on down the board a little bit further. Man, we got a lot of picks this year. So here we are yet again. So we are at pick number 140.
So let's look at who we have taken so far.
All right.
So just kind of give fans a little bit of understanding of who, or just the picks the Panthers have made to this point.
All right. So I don't know where to go to do this. You may see
so
it here.
Click on your
picks.
pick.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So Abdul Carter, Collins, Nick Emanwari, Mitchell Evans, and Ricky White.
All right. Let's see. So a lot of the positional needs have been selected.
And we still got 6 picks to go. 4. So
I
yep,
didn't know we had more 7th-round picks. I wonder if those are projected.
possible.
Yeah.
This is where I start. Like when I do my mocks, I start doing some more of like the the BPA situation, and so
Yeah.
this is where, look,
You take Quinn Ewers here. Just
yeah,
totally go unhinged and
right,
just take the worst quarterback on the board. So,
right. Now, would you look
I
at
love.
a running back here?
Yeah. I like Trevor Etienne. I
Me
like
too.
his game a lot.
Me too.
Like that. He's shown up in big games, showed
Hmm.
up in both Texas games.
And what was that Dan Morgan that clip? What do you say? He likes guys from big time players from big schools. It's
Mhm.
something he said just recently. So
He made big plays
yeah,
for in big games. I mean,
yeah,
two of the bigger games for Georgia last year, outside of Alabama and Notre Dame. Um, like ETN came up big, and his brother's been balling out in Jacksonville.
hmm,
Shout out to Jacksonville Jaguars, who I am writing about for my new home, which I'll be announcing soon. I'm no longer at Jaguars Wire, so I'll be sharing the news on that in the coming days. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. But I do like Trevor Etienne here. I think you got to get a running back to have that competition there.
hmm.
Have a young running back room. Jonathan Brooks out for a year. Man, it's so disappointing that Brooks is out for the year.
Talk about
That
it, man.
I mean, just the horrible luck.
Yeah,
It bothers me though that, and I don't like being this way, but it has bothered me that people are using Brooks's injury to be like, "Ha, we shouldn't have taken a running back at 46 overall." I mean, I get the argument,
hmm,
but for me, there's a little bit of sentimental value that I have with players because I'm definitely for the players.
yeah.
Played football myself, so
Where'd you
I
play?
understand where I played receiver and linebacker in high school. Um,
Are you
you
from
know,
Asheville?
I live in Asheville, man.
How long you? No, are you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Waynesville,
Really?
so
So
about yeah,
did you go to Pisgah or Tuscola?
Tuscola.
No way. So
Yeah,
what year did you graduate Tuscola?
19.
Okay, I was thinking. I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I thought you were a little bit older, man. I was gonna say. I know you didn't play with Crumpton. Yeah, man.
Nah.
Hey, Jared, I don't know if you know this, Jared. I think I've told you this. Maybe I've told you this before. I'm from Asheville too, man. I went to Reynolds.
Oh, really?
Yep, born and raised in Asheville, North Carolina, buddy.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my dad played at AC.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God, I don't remember when he played. Played a totally different. He was on the line.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've been in Nashville my entire life, or been in this area all my life, and
Yeah,
this area. I mean, you know how this area's been since the
absolutely.
hurricane. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's been crazy.
I it's kind of I know we're off topic, but kind of just one note. I'm sure people know that follow me on X. I was kind of displaced from the storm, so
Really?
the Sunday after the storm, I was basically told I-26 is open. You drive down to your family down in Atlanta. I have some
Hmm.
family that live just outside of Atlanta. I stayed there for 2 months. I was there in 2 months. I lived in the living room,
Hmm.
but I was just like so happy to be in a safe area with like running water, fresh water. So it was a crazy time during that couple month stretch for
Yeah.
sure.
I
But
got
yeah, like
one of my
yeah,
buddies
if
had
you're ever in Nashville, man, if
we
you're ever in
yes,
Nashville, yeah,
absolutely.
reach out to me for sure.
Yes.
We'll grab a drink for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm home all the time, man. So yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah.
So my buddy, the Angry Cowboys fan, man, he's been a good friend of mine for a number of years. He was he also went to Reynolds High School, and just
Cool.
sidebar, it's funny. I saw this video, and I tell my friends this all the time, and they're like, "Really, man?" But someone made a video detailing the Reynolds alumni from like 2000 up to like, I don't know, maybe 2010 or something like that. But it's like Ben Johnson, who I actually did go to school with, the new head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
His dad was one of our principals at Reynolds. Rico Dowdle, running back from I
Yeah.
want to say like 2006, 2007-ish or whatever. Luke Combs, the country singer, was also on that same team with Rico.
Wait, AC Reynolds has got
Yeah.
some people that have come out of it
Yep. Chase
from
Rice. I
school.
went to school with
Yeah,
him. I know him personally. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's crazy to see the amount of people that have come out, just in that small time frame and just, the great things that they're doing. And those are people like, that they mentioned. There's still others, one of my good buddies that became a big hiking enthusiast, Dan White. He calls himself the Black Alash, and Hillary Begley, who was in like a lot of Netflix movies and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it's a ton of people that have come out of that school, man. But it's amazing to be in company with people like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
All right, man. Let's
yeah.
get back to it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, real quick. Like
Mhm.
people have confused me for like 40-year-old with kids, and I'm just like, man, I do not want to be a 40-year-old right now. I want to stay young 20s. I'm doing just fine with being a young man. I'm happy doing
Yeah,
so. But yeah, Asheville's a great place to
it is.
visit. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, it was a great place to visit before the hurricane. And
Hmm.
if anyone is able to come out and visit Asheville, downtown area, like the area needs the tourists right now.
Yeah.
Need to just help out the economy in this area. Just also keep on helping out the people in the area that have either been displaced or don't have a home right now. So
Hmm.
any help from any of you guys would be great, like just donations or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like they're still accepting donations stuff, which is amazing.
Very
So
much. Yeah.
so just real quick before we get back into the swing of things, just a
Hmm.
little bit of shout out to Asheville, man. Yeah.
Yeah. My home, man. I come home and I remember driving through. The River Arts District looked nothing like it does now when I was growing up. And then coming home and just seeing, I mean, just absolute devastation, man. It was
That was my
hard.
place to jog, man. Like
Yeah.
if it during the summertime,
Hmm.
like I would be in the River Arts getting a jog, getting a good sweat in, just like that was my place to go. I'm going to try to go back there to jog. I'm hoping this week since it's
Hmm.
actually warmed up.
Yeah.
But man, it's been crazy. It's crazy last 4 or 5 months.
It has been, man. So yeah, definitely prayers up for all of our family in Asheville, all of our friends, and not just Asheville. Western North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina areas that were
Yeah.
affected. I'm in South Carolina now myself, and so yeah, any of the areas that were affected. Yeah, prayers up, donations, anything that you can do,
Mhm.
to help out. So. All right, man. So we are at the 5th pick. We picked Ricky White. So we're back on the board again. I think we
Big week.
settled on Trevor Etienne.
Yep.
All right, so let's do it. So we're gonna pick Trevor here. All right.
And I think now at this point, I think you start going more depth. I think you just gotta start getting defensive depth or even an offensive lineman. Doesn't matter which offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I think you gotta really start looking more on the defensive depth. Shamar Turner is someone I like
Offensive,
defensively.
defensive. Okay.
Defensive tackle. Shamar
All right.
Turner. He's gonna be at this. I think he's gonna be at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. He may have already opted out, which sucks. But Turner's a good run defender.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching his tape the other day. Saw a really solid run defender. He's going to provide depth for an NFL team. I think he's going to go higher than the 5th round. I think he'll end up being a day 2 pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited about his prospects in the NFL. I think he's going to find a role in a rotation. And I think again, this is more about raising the ceiling for Carolina's defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Collins does that, and Turner will do that as well. Run defense has to be fixed
Yeah.
this offseason. Just make it an average run defense at best.
And
right
it'll
now.
be way.
Like,
it'll be markedly better than what it was. This past season.
markedly better.
Yeah.
Markedly better. Like if you're in the range of like just above average or just below average, or just in that mean, you're much better defense than you were last year.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. I'm
Yeah.
tired of seeing 5 yards a clip happening every game.
Right.
I think that happens a lot less often. I think Turner provides developmental value and also depth along the defensive line. So I really like Turner here. Who cares who's on the board here? I just need more defensive depth. I
All
think
right.
Carolina needs that right now.
Well, Turner it is. So we're going to go ahead and take Turner, and that'll take us down to pick 164. And we will start with depth once again. So I will ask this question. Now, obviously, Quinn Ewers is probably not going to be on the board here. My guess is that he's probably going to go back and maybe play for Carolina, going into next year. So who knows what that looks like. But are you taking a flyer on a quarterback here, considering that we may or may not have Andy Dalton?
Oh, maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if they win, or if they signed one as an undrafted free agent, like a priority free agent. I think Curtis Rourke is going to be a priority free agent. Someone mentioned not taking a linebacker yet. I think addressing linebacker depth would be nice.
Okay.
At this pick. I think there could be some players here potentially. Jay Higgins, Small Mondin.
I like Small. Yeah.
Dumas Johnson, physical run defender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mondin would be nice. Another player that, Morgan mentioned, like, you want guys from championship type of teams.
Yeah.
Mondin's been an impact player for the Bulldogs for a while now.
I'm actually surprised that he's on the board here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually watching some of his film, but you can see it. A little undersized.
He can come downhill. He's not the biggest linebacker, but right. I think he does provide. He provides depth. I think he's going to give you special team value. He's disruptive. He's explosive. He's got that dog mentality. Let's just say that he's got that dog mentality. So you get a linebacker with dog mentality, you're in a good spot. So
I agree. You need more of those kind of personalities on the team, and he can be groomed up, by guys. Yeah. So
I think Mondin will be participating in the Senior Bowl this week, so we'll get a good eye on him. So I think Mondin brings that championship value, brings that, hey, he knows what it takes to win. Not necessarily in the league, but just has been from a winning organization, has that dog mentality, has that demeanor of like wanting to play the game. Swenson on the board here as well could be a possibility. I could see them addressing an edge again or double dipping at edge. Mm-hmm. But I think in this scenario, we go with the idea that Carolina has already signed another edge in free agency. So that's kind of where my mindset is.
I understand that because I see a lot of people in the chat, Ladarian Carr specifically saying that you got to take Swenson from LSU. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that? I know you kind of just mentioned it with the.
I would not mind it at all. I haven't gone in depth with Swenson yet. Mondin is someone I'm more familiar with, and I think he does bring more depth to the linebacker room. Mm-hmm. Just in general, he can be effective in the passing game. He can provide special teams value because he plays with great effort. Yeah. Plays with a physical demeanor. Like I don't know what his special team snaps are like. I haven't exactly seen that, but like just the way he's played on film, sometimes you can see on film that, hey, this guy can be a fun special teams player in the league and a potential starting linebacker or even just a quality depth piece. I think Mondin would be that for Carolina. They need the depth, especially with Shaq Thompson's future in question. So I like Mondin here.
All right. Well, Mondin it is. Ladarian, we'll see if your buddy's still on the board here coming up in a second. I don't know. We've gone quite a few picks down, so he might be because we are flying down the board now.
Might be at the last pick.
Yeah. All right. So
round.
Jackson Dart. Wow. I've been seeing people talk about him potentially. Now, I think this is crazy, but because I heard a similar I will never forget this, and I hate to use him because he's an Ole Miss quarterback, but I can remember I wasn't super high on Matt Corral as far as his draft.
This is a similar situation to Matt Corral.
I kind of feel that way. Yeah. It feels very much Matt Corral-ish. Yeah.
And it's more so people trying to force a quarterback
Mm-hmm.
up the board, so then their favorite players can be available at a certain pick. It wouldn't surprise me if Dart is still available in the 7th round.
All right, we got back-to-back picks here. I just want to see something. Just want to see something.
Ooh,
Oh,
Chisholm.
there he is. There he
Horn.
is. Oh my
Ooh.
gosh, he's there.
But John
He and Wester are both right
Wester.
there. Oh my
Hey,
god.
Wester too. Wester's a
Yeah.
playmaker.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
In Eastern the Chisholm, Efton Chisholm from Eastern Washington.
Oh my gosh, 1,300 yards.
Yeah,
What's this guy's measurements? 5'11", 200. Senior.
he's been balling out at the Shrine Bowl. Like,
Really?
yeah, potential riser in day 3. So, once I acquire his film, I'm definitely going to do a deep dive. But
Jared, what's this room gonna look like, man? Like when you bring in, because like, okay, suppose, let's just say hypothetically they find a guy that just wows them at the potential X position. What are you doing with Leggett? Like, what does that do for his development?
I mean, you play him at the Z. I would think you play him at the Z. You can move him, and I think you add. So I was talking to, or I commented at JP Acosta from SB Nation.
Mm-hmm.
He does draft stuff. He does all sorts of stuff. And he did mention that, if you draft, hypothetically speaking, you drafted Tet at 8,
mm-hmm.
it would allow you to, and within this offense, it would allow you to move Coker and Leggett around, move those pieces around the offense, because McMillan is a alignment versatile player. He's not he's not a role specific player. He can play anywhere along the skill fronts. So you can play the Y, you can play the Z, the X. So I think Carolina, I think you need to continue to add depth and talent to the receiver room. I do think that Carolina drafts one wide receiver in this draft. I don't see them taking another. I think after the playmaker we took, who was it? I'm trying. It's been a long day already. Who was it?
That we took?
Yeah.
On ours, Ricky White?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think after White, you kind of go away from other playmakers. That's just me, just because
that's fair.
In my mind, you may have already added some pieces in free agency, like Elijah Moore or even a T. Higgins. Like, T. Higgins could be on the roster already. So
yeah.
I think Carolina comes away with at least one wide receiver in this draft. I'd be shocked if they didn't draft a wide receiver at some point in the draft.
Fair point. All right. In that case, then where do we want to focus our depth? Like, we know that defense is what it is. Do we want to start focusing our depth more on, like, do we want to look at the potential of a backup quarterback, or do we want to, because we are picking back to back here, or do we want to focus more on our depth?
I would say positional value wise, let's look at a quarterback here, and then let's look at offensive line.
All right. So let's see.
I think developmental wise, Dart would be a nice pick.
Okay.
I think, and also this would be great value, because I wouldn't shock me if he falls this far, but I think he's more of a 3rd round, 4th round guy. But I totally get where you're coming from with the Matt Corral stuff. Like, I totally get it. And I wouldn't be surprised if I saw that happen.
And I was a Matt Corral guy, but I think that was, throwing motion was awkward. There was just so much. And really, it was just more
too inconsistent too.
Yeah. But I was just seeing a few highlights, and I'm like, man, this guy, if he can figure it out, this looks like it could be something special. But it just not at all. So, all right. So yeah, Jackson Dart it is. So let's go ahead and get the developmental piece here, and then we're right back on the board next. So, do we go with maybe someone like Xavier Truss, somebody that could potentially, back up Ike Kwanu, or, be a rotational piece to get, Josh Nijman out of the way, who was a turnstile, for Taylor Moton?
I think if Truss fits what Carolina wants to do offensively, and also within their blocking scheme, physical run blocker, like he fits that he fits that system to a T. So I do like Truss here as a developmental tackle.
Okay. So we'll take Truss here. And here we are with our last pick at 232.
Let's take a kicker.
Somebody said that. Who was that? LaDarian Carr said we need a kicker also.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you draft a kicker, you should be fired.
Right.
But
someone said corner. Do you want to look at corners?
Yeah, I don't think.
No way.
How is Kobe Bryant at that? Send it in. Send it in. Send it in. I mean, send it in.
Oh my gosh.
I like if Bryant were to last this far, that would be insane.
That is.
I mean, anything could happen in the draft, but whew, wow. But that will change after this week. You're gonna see Bryant like well up there in the cornerback rankings for sure.
Man, Jared, I think we did great, man. Look, the only person that they said, and look, you were beating your chest about this, so this was more my fault. But you were on the Omar Norman lot, and I said Alfred Collins. So look, Jared is, like I said, you are the expert for a reason. So yeah, salute to you.
Jermaine said that you go kicker on firing you, Jared Morgan. Hey, please do, because like if I decided to draft a kicker, like I probably was in a trance or brainwashed or something. So yeah, but wow, we did good here, man.
We did
really good.
A-. That's not bad.
Yeah.
You know, I said that we were going to possibly.
The reason why I got A- because of Ricky White, but
yeah.
I wonder if the grade is better if we took Jalen Noel, but that was a draft. That was a chat pick.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the chat.
None
disrespect to the chat. Love you guys. But that's the only true bad pick. Bad.
Yeah. I still like the pick because if his upside is what, many in the chat think that it can be, then it's a value pick. Like a year from now, people may say like, man, he should have been a top 10 pick, whatever, just depending on how he fares. So yeah.
I would be so happy if this draft ended up like it was in April. But like I said, a lot can change. There's going to be adjustments. There's going to be players that will be rising and falling throughout the process. It's going to be a wild ride, my friend. We're gonna be in for a wild offseason.
So I'm gonna share this because I really like this, and this will be our the first official mock that I've done with you and just sharing see what people's thoughts are, get some engagement. So I'll download this and I'll tag you in it and everything, and just kind of see what the overall thought is on this draft. And I'll be honest with you, man, this took a lot longer than I anticipated that it would. So I'm probably not going to go through another one because we'd be here for 4 hours.
I'm on board with you there. I think we reached the limit tonight, and I've definitely reached my limit. I'm cooked. I'm absolutely cooked.
But I do want to ask you one closing question. So just based on what we've seen here, what would your hopeful optimism be? And maybe even you could go from a pessimistic point of view, but from a hope, just as a hopeful optimist, based on this draft and maybe a few free agent moves that we make, where could you see the Panthers landing next year, record-wise, or what do you think they would be as far as competitors in the division, or further, based on
10 wins, NFC South.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like if the Panthers have good offseason or at least a good free agency and have a draft like this, my optimism is going to be through the roof. If I'm a Panthers fan, like the hope is going to be on the rise. It's going to feel like pre-2023 all over again, when everyone had an insane amount of hope for the season with the all-star coaching staff. We don't need to relive that. But I would go into training camp being like, this team could end up being NFC South Division champions without hesitation. and could they somehow, some way be the 2025 version of the Washington Commanders? Sure. And if that were to happen, Bryce Young probably had the season of his life.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, and I think you see the potential of him just having monster games next year, especially if they're able to figure out their skill position question marks. And especially if they even have an average defense, or even this year, if they had an average defense down the stretch, I think they're in contention for the NFC South title.
Yeah.
Like, they probably would have beaten the Chiefs. They probably would have beaten the Eagles. They probably would have beaten the Bucks the first time.
That's right.
Probably would have. What was the other game they?
I feel like we would have fared better against the Cowboys, because I think that.
Yeah, I think it definitely would have been closer.
It'd have been a lot closer than it was. Yeah.
But last year there were definitely some missed opportunities on the table, but I think it was just a team that was still learning to win, and they end the season on a high note to where they finally found a way to learn and know how to win games. They finished the last 3 games. They won 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to end the year. You wish you end the year on a much higher note with a win against or 2 wins against the Super Bowl competitors this year. Which of course I will definitely be watching as a football nut. Like, there's no way I'm going to miss out on a chance to watch Andy Reid versus Vic Fangio,
cinema.
Nick Sirianni versus Steve Spagnuolo.
Oh, okay, what's your prediction, man? Let's talk about it. Go ahead.
Chiefs get the 3-peat.
I think so too. I don't even think it's gonna be. I think this was gonna be even worse than this. To me, I feel like this is gonna be as lopsided as the the Bucks and the Chiefs Super Bowl was. I think they are gonna run them boys out of the stadium.
Really?
Yes.
Is it because of Hurts?
No, I think it's gonna be. There's gonna be so much momentum. They're going to be so motivated. I think they come out and play the cleanest, fastest game. Like, that AFC Championship was big for a couple of players. It was huge for Xavier Worthy, who dropped a really big pass in the first Bills game that they lost earlier this year. So he showed up big. D-Hop. I think D-Hop has the game of his life. I think he shows up as old D-Hop with 2 weeks of rest, right? I think Kelsey, I have a conspiracy theory that Kelsey is probably going to engage himself to that girl, after the game. And I think he's going to come out motivated because he don't want to fall flat on his face and miss that opportunity. And then ultimately, Pat, man, I think that Pat's going to have a really good preparation, couple of weeks. One thing that I love as far as what Spags did Sunday, man, like Spags did the same thing. And I'm going to tell you, Jared, when I was watching that game, and look, I know I got some people in my chat that love me dearly, and I love them dearly. Pop is one of those people. But, boy, I'm going to tell you something, and Pop know where I'm going. But we are at odds when it comes to this. But when I saw what that blitz did to Josh Allen, the only thing I could think is, my goodness, I remember that same 0 blitz that he sent against Bryce Young, and he carved him with Adam Thielen twice. And he saved it for him to the end of the game and sent the house. Yep. And Josh, look, all I'm saying is this. When I look at that, I think like, oh, man, I can't wait to see what this guy does with similar, roster, move alignments and things like that. But that's not for this time right now. I think the Chiefs are going to smoke them. I do.
I think it'll be a close game. I could see the Chiefs pulling away late. I don't really have a score prediction right now, but I think the Chiefs, it just feels inevitable. It really does. And I think this is probably one of the more complete teams. And like, look, they've had a lot of. I think they were 11-0 in 1-score games this year. Just insane in the regular season. Not even talking about the postseason, the regular season. I think Chiefs get the 3-peat. Mahomes officially is in the conversation with Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time.
I was going to ask you that. Where do you fall on that? Because I know what I think, but I want to hear you first.
I think he's already one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He gets the three-peat. He's pulling off something Michael Jordan was able to pull off in the NBA back in the 90s when he pulled off the first three-peat. Mahomes is about to do the same thing in the NFL this time around. We're looking at something that's never been done before, and I don't think enough people are like processing that. And personally, for me, I don't think I've processed that entirely. Like I said this, I think right after the Super Bowl last year, we are looking at the Michael Jordan of the NFL right now, Patrick Mahomes. And you get that three-peat, you are Michael Jordan of the NFL.
I wish I had this tweet saved. Keep going. I'm looking for something really quick, but keep going.
Yeah, this is we're never going to see someone like Patrick Mahomes again. No. But and funny enough, like earlier this morning, I had to take my grandmother somewhere. She had watched the game last night. I was telling her, like, you wonder, you want to see Mahomes in adversity, and what I mean by that is, what is he going to be like when Andy Reid retires? What is he going to be like when Spags is gone? What is he going to be like with some of the other core pieces around him right now that aren't there? What is he going to be like in his late 30s? Is his physical ability going to decline? That's something I want to see. But until we see that, which might be another decade from now, Mahomes will continue to be in contention for the Super Bowl every year.
Every single year.
Every single year.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It would be a solid bet. If you're a betting man, go ahead and just bet Mahomes for the AFC Championship for the next at least 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't matter if Mahomes is on the road or at home. And he's already shown last year that he can get it done on the road to get to the Super Bowl. If he does it, I think maybe last year was probably the more impressive Super Bowl win for Mahomes. But I think we've gotten a little bit off topic.
No, it's okay. The Panther stuff, the draft stuff is done, man. Just you can speak freely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm someone that's not going to be like full tinfoil hat and be like, oh my God, the refs are so for the Chiefs. I'm like, I'm someone of like, look, the refs are bad at their job. They make bad mistakes all the time. They miss calls. There's no conspiracy. I know that's always been a part of sports. I totally understand that, but that's going to continue to just fuel the conspiracy theorists throughout all the time. And I get where they're coming from, but again, for me, it's just like things just happen, you know?
Yeah. So Jermaine said, true. MJ stopped a lot of great players from getting rings in the 90s.
Exactly.
Mahomes is doing the same currently, but it's different though. And this is okay. So I saw
because Lamar Jackson. It's because of Lamar Jackson.
Yes. Well,
it's become a 3-time MVP.
Yes. And not only that, but you got a lot of people in Jordan's era that he didn't stop from getting rings. And this is something that Nick Wright had tweeted today. And I was like, man, that is so accurate. He said, listen, of course, you know, you've got, he kept Barkley from getting it. He kept Malone from getting it. You know, he kept early Shaq with the Orlando Magic from getting it. But Larry Bird got it in his era. Now, granted, it was early, right? Magic got one in his era. Isaiah got a couple in his era. You know, with Mahomes, nobody. Like Joe Burrow was the closest to doing it. He broke through. But beyond him, like you said, 3-time MVP or what, 2-time MVP, excuse me. Lamar Jackson can't get through him. You know, sensational rookie and now, you know, good second-year player CJ Stroud can't get through him. Joe Burrow, he beat him again, can't get through him. Josh Allen really is the one that stands out the most because, I mean, as far as a comp is concerned, that is your comp in the league. And it's like, for as much as we like to think that this is like the Brady and Manning situation, it is so far from that. This is more Aikman versus Kelly in Super Bowls, like with Marv Levy. Like this is, you're not getting close.
Yeah. I think after this year, I mean, for me, I'm going to be like, all right, they got the 3P done. Enough's enough. Enough's enough. Like the Bills have to break through at some point, or even the Ravens. Like one of those teams has to break through.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think we see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl next year. I think they do have somewhat of a down year.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always that, like, they always regress to there's always teams like that regress to the mean. We saw it with the dynasty. Of course, like Brady went 10 years without another after winning 3 Super Bowls to start his career. He went 10 years without winning another one. Then he ripped off 4 at the age of 35 all the way to 45. So I think with Mahomes, you're just going to have to wait and see how things transpire.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as long. I have a conspiracy theory that I'll throw out there really quick, and then we can wrap up. I don't think that Mahomes is going to play as long as many people may think. I think
I'm kind of leaning with you on that.
I think when Andy Reid walks out the door, he's walking out with him.
I don't know if it'll be that, or I think Andy Reid's only got a couple more years left.
You think so?
Yeah, and I think Mahomes will continue to play up until he feels like his physical ability just starts to decline, unless he just figures out how to be insanely accurate, and turn into Tom Brady to end for his final 10 years and just be like, oh crap, here we go.
Yeah,
here we go again.
Is Andy Reid the best coach ever, Jared?
No.
You think it's Bill?
It's Bill. It's Bill.
Really?
Yeah. Absolutely Bill. Like I think if Reid gets a 3P, it's definitely an argument. It's definitely an argument for me. Right now, it's Bill. No questions asked.
Can I make an argument really quick?
Go ahead.
When Bill was coaching, which his coaching staff in Cleveland is nuts. Saban was on that staff. Gosh, I can't remember who else. I think Weiss might have been on that staff. That Cleveland thing didn't look the same as it did with Andy in Philly. And you're talking 5 straight NFC championships and a Super Bowl appearance. And it's like, when I finally get my version of what you had in TB12, I'm doing stuff that really should, like, when you talked about the gravity of this situation, Jared, this should not be done in the NFL. It should not. Like, you can't cheat. And I know people like, look, some of these calls are crazy. Some of these calls are bogus. You can't cheat enough for what they're doing. You cannot. You can't cheat enough for them winning the way that they're winning.
It
shouldn't be done.
They were actually cheating. Like, there's no way.
You can't.
Because this is modern NFL. Like, I'm sure there are teams cheating out there.
Oh yeah.
And they haven't been caught yet. But what the Chiefs are doing, they're winning in the modern NFL, where defenses are playing better, run game's starting to emerge. Mm-hmm. But Mahomes, Reid, they know how to win. They're learning they've already learned how to win. They know how to get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get to one Super Bowl and winning. They're about to pull off a three-peat. They have a chance of pulling off a three-peat in 2 weeks.
Jared, if you and I took the drugs that Lance take, you think we're going to get on the bike and do what he did?
No.
The only thing it does is it takes greatness and makes it, superb. It's not going to take average. Like, if I take an anabolic steroid, I'm still going to be fat tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only going to take the guy that's already jacked and turn him into Lou Ferrigno. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to do much for me. So
like, look, Mahomes, the Chiefs are going to run the NFL until someone actually stops them.
That's a fact.
And look, I think the Bills had the best chance to beat them this year.
Mm-hmm. And this was their most complete team. The running game was there. Like,
Right.
what more do you Dan Orlovsky said it this morning. He's like, if you're Josh Allen and you look in the mirror, you're like, man, what the heck? Like, what do I do?
You have to hope another team beats them in the postseason before you play them.
Before you play them.
A chance to like feel like, oh, now we don't have the pressure of.
But here's the thing: even if they do that, and you're Josh, and let's say you get, because you almost had that with, well, no, not really, but they got beat by Cincinnati last year. But the thing is like, if they do that, and suppose it's, I don't know, suppose it's the Texans or something, or maybe Lamar. Maybe Lamar does break through, right? And then you beat Lamar to go to the Super Bowl. What's everybody going to say? Oh, you can do it. Look, you got the right one. It was a perfect situation for you because you couldn't have done it. You can't do it against them.
NFL discourse, especially on social media, is a shitstorm that, like, I will venture into every so often, but I am perfectly okay with arguing with Panthers fans and Panthers discourse. And draft discourse. That's as far as I'm going to go.
Same here.
I will share my opinions on Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think the two of them are two of the best quarterbacks in the land, and I know Allen he'll win an MVP. He might win it this year. He might win it in a couple years, but like, he's going to win an MVP before his career's out. I mean, it's kind of already foretold.
I think it's his this year. Yeah, it'll be his this year. So,
of course, you're going to continue to talk about Herbert. You're going to talk about Daniels, Stroud. I think Stroud will rebound. I think if Young has a great year this coming year, you're going to probably put him in the conversation for sure, especially how he played to end the year. I'm probably forgetting other quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts. I mean, their range of opinions with Jalen Hurts.
Burrow,
Joe Burrow, of course, Joe Burrow. I think if the Bengals had an average defense this year, they're in the playoffs. They're winning the AFC North.
100%. And he's the MVP without a doubt. Like, his statistical season was off the charts. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. This look, guys, it's Mahomes' league. Nothing we can do about it other than hope that someone takes him down in the postseason.
That's it.
And if they do, props to them. And then you'll have a different team from the AFC in the Super Bowl for once.
Yeah.
But until that happens, Mahomes is running the show. Nothing we can do about it. Nothing we can do about it, brother. Just gotta hope the Panthers unseat him at some point.
Exactly. Well, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. Jared, I think you're like I said, you're one of the smartest people that I've ever come in contact with, on or off draft or anything, man. I like where your head is as far as like your passion for football, your passion for, draft analysis. And, I hope this is not the last time, that we do this. Maybe next time we can do it in person, with us being in so close proximity. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be something really cool, man. But tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on X, you can find me on Threads, and also you can find me on Blue Sky at JRod NFL Draft. You can find my content my Panthers content over at thepantherswire.com or pantherswire.com or USA Today, Panthers Wired. And also you'll be finding my Jaguars and other team content in the future. I won't be announcing who just yet. I gotta wait for more details to get figured out, but that'll be announced shortly. But you'll be seeing more Jaguars coverage on my end. I'll continue to do that. Venture off a little bit to explore other teams, just gotta broaden my exposure a little bit. But yeah, Blue Sky, Threads, X, find me on those platforms at JRod NFL Draft. I don't use TikTok. I'm not into like doing that type of content. I like the writing content more so. And also on YouTube. I don't usually use YouTube except to just watch videos, watch this replay of this podcast. But yeah, you guys can find me over there on those sites and also on those platforms. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. I'd love to have you on post-draft, man, to talk about the, how everything
Absolutely.
went, and break that down, man. So yeah, let's definitely schedule that to happen, man. And you guys know where you can find me, ONE Carolina, man. I appreciate you. My name is John Farmer. This has been Jared. Thank you, Panther Nation, so much for everything that you've done for us tonight, and we appreciate you guys sticking it through with us. Keep pounding.